Hi and welcome to this Approvals app for Zendesk demo video where we're going to be going through all things approvals. Now, if you're not familiar with installing an app into your Zendesk, you can do so by going to zendesk.com/apps, do a quick search for SweetHawk and you'll be able to find approvals here. If there's any part of this video you are hoping to see, I've listed out the times here that you can skip to various elements. The three scenarios we're going to be running through today is a basic approval requesting a refund amount, a little bit more advanced approval where it's going to be automatically sent off and there's going to be multiple approvals for a travel request, and then the last one I'll show you how to set up from scratch, which is a purchasing approval request. Another kind of common scenario that might require approvals is a change request or a change advisory board scenario. And if that's something you're interested in, we do have a separate ITSM change management video that you can watch. Okay, so let's jump in and have a look at things from the first example, which is requesting a refund. And we can see this right now we're looking at things from the agent's perspective. So this ticket has just come in from Inigo Montoya. And the first thing you would note or should note is that on the right hand side of the screen where the apps usually show up to agents, approvals is not one of the apps currently showing. And that is because the first thing you can do is you can define when an approval is required on a ticket. And that can be based on any condition of a ticket. For example, in this case, when I select the refund request form, that is when the approvals app kicks into gear and says, hey, you want a refund? You need to get some information from the end user and send that off for approval. And when as long as the ticket has not been approved, you won't be able to solve the ticket. Okay, so let's go through here and start filling out some details. And note that as I fill these details in, on the right-hand side, the items that are required, live update to show that I'm filling them in. And the reason why this is important is that while we have items that are required for approval, I won't be able to send an approval off. So if I was to kind of go and select an approver here, I can't click that button. So I have to fill in all the details. So I'm going to fill in the rest of the details here. And we'll be able to see that as soon as those details are filled out, I'm now able to send that off. Another thing to note about this approval is that I've opened this approval up to anybody within the approvals app that I've added. That's any particular group of approvers or any individual approvers, but you don't have to do that. You can lock it down so that this approval could only be sent to an individual approval or only be sent to a specific group of approvers or a set of individuals as options if you wanted to. So there's a lot you can do here, but we're just gonna run through this kind of basic example of what you can do here. So I'm gonna send this approval off, and note that as soon as I submit that to be sent, the fields that we've just filled in as an agent have been locked down. Because the approval's been sent to an approver, we don't want the agent changing the details on the ticket and then making those details that the approver is looking at not relevant. Okay, so not much needs to happen right now from an agent's perspective. They can just wait until the approver comes back. From an approver's perspective, we can see it's been sent off to Harriet, and she'll be able to see in her email that the approval request has come in. I'll just refresh this. So that's one really interesting thing about the approvals app is that approvers do not need to be agents in Zendesk. They don't even need to be users in Zendesk, which is really helpful. One, because you don't have to pay for them to be an agent in Zendesk, but also because you may have people in your business like C-level people who really don't know or maybe don't even care what Zendesk is, and all they want to do is have the information sent to them in a nice, concise way and then be able to approve or decline, which is what this does. So here I'm going to click on approve, and this is going to take me as an approver through to the agent interface. I'll be able to see that the stamp of approval has been given. And if I've got any outstanding approvals that I need to look into, I'll see this number at the top left-hand side of the screen. And I'll be able to kind of see a history of everything that I've approved, and then any outstanding ones I can just kind of go through here without swivel chairing back to my email. Okay, so back on the ticket, we'll be able to see that the approvals app has listed now that this approval has been granted, and it's also posted a comment from the approver. In this case, it's a private comment, but you can make it private or public that's happened. Okay, so there's one scenario where an approval is manually sent off by an agent on a ticket. Well, what about if you know that certain end users or people within your business are going to be submitting tickets through the help center, through the customer facing portal, and the instant that they submit those tickets, you want an approval to automatically be sent off? Well, you can do that too. So the approvals app is quite broad in what use cases it can solve. So let's have a look at things from an end user. Right here, we're on the Casterly Hotels end user portal, and we're pretending that we're an employee of this company, and we need to get a approval to travel to San Francisco for a conference. So I'm going to fill these details in. Travel to SF. And we'll put our type in here, so destination SF. And note that these fields that I'm filling out, there's nothing special, particularly special about these fields. These are just Zendesk custom fields that we've put as part of the travel request form and made available to end users on our help center. But we have locked these fields to make them required as per the red dot on the right hand side, so that we can ensure that we always have the full amount of information we need to automatically send that approval off straight away. Okay, so we're conference, and we'll say we're going from here to here, and then click on submit. Okay, so that's all the end user really needs to do to get that underway. Now, from an agent's perspective, we'll be able to see in our travel requests view that email has come in, and we'll be able to see also that the instant that approval request came in, we automatically sent an approval off based on this information. And so you can see that the things that are getting approved are the ticket fields that are locked down. So automatically send it off based on the fact that it got creation, or basically any ticket conditions or ticket event, you can have this automatically sent off as well. So once again, from Harriet's perspective, I'm going to see another approval come in for this travel request, and I'm going to be able to click on approve. But this time, instead of just a straight approval, we've set this approval to say, well, you need to add a comment in here before it's considered fully approved. So you can say, yes, that's fine with me. And that comment will be recorded as part of the history of the approval. And if I click on confirm here, we'll be able to see that this approval is granted once again. And on the ticket here, we'll be able to see that's happened as well. Now, at any point, I'll be able to see the history of what's happened with the approvals. For example, if I click on this history button here, I'll be able to see that it's been sent off and it's been granted by Harriet. But another thing you'll note on this approval is that the process isn't complete. It actually requires another approval to take place before we can fully grant approval for this. So that's where like a sequential approval, an event has taken place to automatically kick off a secondary approval that is required to be granted by the finance team. But in this case, there is one required field that the agent will need to look at, and they'll need to fill in the travel costs. So we'll just put in the travel cost here, and then we can select the agent we want to send it off to. So actually we'll just send it back off to Harriet, and we can kick that off. Once again, I'll have to submit that. And we'll see here, once again, another email's come through, which I'll be able to click on approve for. And then back in the ticket, we'll be able to see that secondary approval has been granted. And for both approvals that took place, there was a comment added to the ticket so that if you want to show the end user the information that's coming through, you can have it listed as public replies, or you can list it as private as well. So there's a little bit more of a complex scenario where we automatically sent an approval off, and then that being granted automatically kicked off a secondary approval that was required on the ticket before it could be completed. Okay, so now looks like let's look into the actual admin part of the app and how to set different parts of these things up. So if we click on the approvals app over here, we'll be able to see that you've got your approvers here, you've got your approvals groups here, and you've got your approval templates here. They're the three elements in setting up an approval flow. So the first thing you can do is to create an approver. It's very simple. You're just typing in the email address of the approver, and then type in the name, like so. Now that's all you need to do to create the approver. But if you want to, you can set an escalation approver. And this escalation approver could be somebody like the Finn's boss. And this is taken. This list of approvers here is taken from all of the other approvers that are already been added into the approvals app. And then you can say, well, if Finn Rosell hasn't actioned this approval, then it's automatically going to be passed to Harriet Bergman here after X period of time, like so. So I can click on create here, and now we've got another approver that we've just added. Next thing you can do is set up approval groups. So we've got an approval group for different scenarios. For example, here we have the change advisory board, and it's very simple to set up an approval group. You're just setting the name, the approvers, and the number of approvers required. I'll just show you how easy it is. So I'm going to set the name here. We set the approvers. This is taken from the list of approvers here, like so. And then we just say, well, of these, in order for this approval that's been sent to IT to be considered properly granted, 2 of those 3 approvers there need to say yes before that will actually happen. So quite a simple kind of concept there. And finally, we've got the approval templates section, which is where we define what an approval is, when it's required, and when it is automatically sent out. So now we're going to create an approval template for a purchasing request scenario where you might have people in the company who, well, for example, maybe they're a salesperson and they're going to a conference and they need to purchase some banners, but they need to get approval for that. So the first step of creating an approval template is just to click on to create it, and then we'll give it a name. We can give it a description. We can set the primary approver to any particular person. We can set the form here that's going to be applied to. And then we can choose the fields on the form that are required for approval. So we can either just scroll through the fields on the form, or we can type them out like so. So maybe we want to know the requester name and email address. We can do that. The quantity of items, the price, maybe the reason for purchase. And you get the idea. You can just fill out these fields as much as you require, and then you're pretty much ready to go. And that's all you really need to do to get an approval working and showing for agents. Now, right now, this approval will show when we create a new ticket and select the purchasing form. So I'll submit that and show how that works. So we've got a new ticket here. So you can say purchasing request, and we set the purchasing form here, and bang, those fields, that template that we just created is now showing, and it's required on the ticket, and the primary approver that we set that was required, Harriet Bergman, is listed here, and we'll have to fill that out. Okay, so that's how easy it is to set up, but there's a lot of different things that you can do for different scenarios or different trajectories that you want the approval to flow through, or who you want the approval assessed by. So let's go back into that approval and talk about some of those options. Okay, so the first thing to dig into here is the primary approver. Now, yes, you can set this to a specific approver, but you can also set it to an approval group, like for example, the purchasing approval group, or you can set it to things relative to the actual ticket that's been submitted. For example, if I was to set it to the requester, then it would send the approval back to the person who sent the ticket in the first place. And that might be good for getting them to agree to terms and conditions, or getting them to agree to being billed for certain amounts per hour or something like that. The other one is the manager. Say, for example, you've got X number of employees. Each of the employees has a manager. You don't want to have to create an approval template for every single employee where you specifically set the manager as their approver. You want that to happen relatively dynamically, and that's what the manager functionality allows you to do. You can simply set the manager's email address on their Zendesk user profile, or have that even automatically done through an integration with another external source like Okta or what have you. Yeah, quite powerful functionality there. And we do have a full video on how to set up and manager functionality and how that works, if you're interested. Okay, so let's leave this as Harriet Bergman for now though, and we'll talk about the next item here, which is ticket form. Now the first thing you might be wondering is, well, what if I don't have forms enabled? I don't have a Zendesk plan that allows me to have forms. Well, instead of forms then, you'll be asked to specify a tag. So the condition as to when the approval will show on the ticket, as you saw over here, like so, will be if that tag exists on the ticket. But you really can set any conditions you like as to when that approval shows on the ticket. And that is done using the advanced condition editor here. So if you don't want to specify a form, maybe you want to specify a drop-down field or something else, you can kind of get into a little bit of JSON and create some conditions. We do have a knowledge base article that shows you how you can get further deeper in that. I would always kind of encourage people to just try and keep it as simple as possible. So, but that is there if you require. And it's the same thing with the ticket field sent to the approver. If you want some advanced message editing ability, you can click this here, and then you can start typing your own message specific to what you want to be sent. You could even inject some liquid markup conditionality to show or calculate fields. You can go nuts here really, and there is a link to a knowledge base as well. But once again, keeping it simple is kind of nice. So, and then on the right hand side here, this is where we have options around who the agent is allowed to send the approval to. So maybe we only want the agent to send it through to Harriet Bergman, Jeff Citizen, and or Inigo Montoya. That would be fine. Those approvers would appear in this drop-down box here, for which there is only one at the moment. Another thing, that you saw on the original refund example is that we just selected unrestricted choice, and that just let you, as an agent, select any group or approver. The anyone button here, you might think, oh, well, that's exactly the same thing. No, it's not. It's the anyone button just allows you to type in any email address, and then the approval will be created on the fly at the point that the approval is sent out. So yeah, there's a bit about the options. Now, how about another scenario where rather than an agent initiating the approval to be sent off to get assessed, it's automatically done the instant the ticket is created. Maybe that ticket is created by an end user, somebody who's not an agent in your Zendesk, but they're still in your company and they still need purchasing approval. For example, if over here from Inigo's perspective, he was to go to the company help center, I need to create a purchasing request here, and the instant he fills out this form, it automatically gets sent off. Now that is where automatic approvals comes in. So you can turn on the ability to make an approval automatic simply by checking this box. And what that does is that it gives you a button to create a Zendesk Trigger. And the Zendesk Trigger is what initiates the approval being sent. If you're not familiar with Zendesk Triggers, they are the engine of Zendesk. They are your ultimate workflow tool. You set a bunch of conditions when you want something to take place on a ticket, and then you set a bunch of actions based on those conditions. So let's have a look at that in action. Now that we've set this to automatic and I submit this, we'll be able to see that we get this button here. So rather than having to delve into the bowels of Zendesk and find your triggers and create the trigger, you can do that with a shortcut here, Create Trigger. And you'll see that you can click into the trigger, and we've preset some rules in that trigger for you. But you can change the rules to be whatever you like, really. So the initial rules are the ticket is created, when the ticket is created, and the form is the form that you selected in the approval template form, then send the approval off. But yes, you have access to hundreds of other conditions that you can set. Maybe you only want to send it off if the brand is Casterly Hotels, or you only want to send it off based on some other fields. You've got access to all number of custom field or ticket field options available. You can set those as conditions. And then you send the approval off like so, and we can just click on Save. So now, if I was to submit a ticket through the Help Center like so, I can just say purchasing request, need banners, we want some banners, we want to purchase, well, it's not going to be more than 5,000, maybe it's a small one, so we're at $300 for 3 of them. Conference. And these fields, once again, are just regular Zendesk fields that we're filling in, that we've made as required by the end user filling out this field, and they can submit that. And by sending that in, that is going to put the ticket into Zendesk. I'll just do a quick search for it here, 3852. We'll just go straight to that ticket. We'll be able to see that that's come in, and the approval that we created on it and made it automatic has now automatically been sent off to Harriet Bergman, and those fields that we set have been locked down, and Harriet will have seen that approval come in like so. So yeah, that is an overview of what the approvals app can do, and a little bit going into how to set up your own approvals. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with us at support@sweethawk.co. Thanks for watching.